the A-10 Warthog. It is perhaps the most beloved, most frequently featured in videos, and arguably the most debated aircraft in the world of aviation. We know it not just as a fighter jet, but as a massive machine gun with wings. However, behind those exciting videos you watch on the internet, there is a massive cloud of misinformation regarding the aircraft's true capabilities and limitations. Today, we are putting the facts that everyone thinks are true, but are actually incomplete or completely false, under the microscope. If you are ready, we are beginning to pierce not the armor of the legend, but the urban legends surrounding it. When the A-10 is mentioned, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is that famous sound. The massive GAU-8 Avenger cannon that spits out approximately 3,900 rounds per minute. Many people believe that this cannon slices through every kind of tank in the world like paper in a single pass. You even hear exaggerated stories on social media about this cannon splitting a tank in half. However, real operational data tells us a completely different story. When this aircraft was designed in the early 70s, its goal was to neutralize Soviet tanks of that era. But the modern main battle tanks developed since the 80s have become quite resistant to these 30mm rounds. Composite armors, reactive protections, and improved steel hulls make it almost impossible for A-10 rounds to penetrate the front or side armor of a tank. Does this mean the A-10 is a failure? Absolutely not. You do not necessarily have to blow a tank up to neutralize it. The A-10's rounds can shatter a tank's optical systems, rip off its tracks, or pierce the engine cover to turn it into an immobile heap of iron. In military terminology, this is called a mission kill. In other words, the A-10 might not destroy a tank, but it can strip away that tank's ability to fight within seconds. The second major misunderstanding is about the aircraft's speed. Many aviation enthusiasts see the A-10's slowness as a major weakness. When compared to an F-16 or F-35, the Warthog moves through the sky almost like a turtle. However, this slowness is not a design flaw. On the contrary, it is a vital necessity. A pilot providing close air support must distinguish that fine line between friendly troops and enemy soldiers on the ground. If you fly at thousands of kilometers per hour, you only have a single second to identify the target. The A-10, thanks to its low speed, can stay over the target for a long time, observe the area, and carry out high-precision strikes. Additionally, the wing structure of this aircraft provides incredible maneuverability at low speeds. So, what we call clumsiness is actually a life buoy for the infantry on the ground. Let's get to the durability of the aircraft. You have probably heard the legend of the titanium bathtub. The cockpit, where the pilot sits, is surrounded by titanium armor weighing more than 500 kilograms. People think this aircraft is completely immune to anti-aircraft fire. However, the situation is a bit more complex on the modern battlefield. The A-10 shows incredible resistance against 23mm cannons or anti-aircraft rifles. It is designed in such a way that it can continue flying even if it loses one engine or if half of its tail is ripped off. But we have to accept a reality. No titanium armor can protect you against a modern air defense missile or an advanced shoulder-fired guided missile. The true strength of the A-10 is not in being unhittable, but in its ability to keep the pilot alive when it is hit. This aircraft is like a loyal bodyguard that sacrifices its own body to return its pilot home safely. Another controversial issue is the cases of friendly fire. Some circles criticize the aircraft by claiming the A-10 is the plane that has hit its own soldiers the most. While this may be statistically true, it is not a technical deficiency of the aircraft. The A-10 enters dangerous zones more than any other aircraft. It is the plane that flies closest to the infantry and stays right in the heart of the conflict. While other jets fire smart missiles from 10,000 feet, A-10 pilots enter the dust and smoke. In older models, the lack of advanced sensors forced pilots to rely only on their eyes, which led to tragic mistakes. However, these problems have been largely resolved with modern updates. These tragedies do not prove the aircraft is bad, but rather how risky and difficult its mission is. Finally, let's look at the issue of why the aircraft has still not been retired. Many people think the American Air Force is stubborn or that they keep this aircraft because of political pressure. Actually, the reason is much simpler and more pragmatic. Economics. The cost of flying an F-35 for 1 hour is tens of thousands of dollars, whereas the A-10 is as efficient and cheap as a construction machine. If you are fighting an enemy that does not have advanced air defense systems, there is no need to risk billion-dollar stealth jets. The A-10 is a unique tool that offers high destructive power at a low cost. Furthermore, no unmanned aerial vehicle or modern jet can create the psychological confidence that the A-10 creates for the soldier on the ground. It is a terrifying monster for the enemy, and a hand reaching out from the sky for the friendly soldier. Another big misconception about the aircraft's design is that its body is only there to carry that massive cannon. Yes, the GAU-8 takes up almost a quarter of the aircraft, but the true lethal power of the aircraft is hidden in the stations under its wings. While most people think the A-10 only fires bullets, this aircraft actually carries tons of Maverick missiles, laser-guided bombs, and free-fall munitions. In fact, Maverick missiles are much more effective and safer than that famous cannon when it comes to hunting tanks, because they allow the pilot to hit the target from kilometers away without having to directly approach the enemy tank. The primary function of the cannon is to establish pressure against trucks, light armored vehicles, and infantry groups after the ammunition is exhausted or when it is not economical to hit them with a missile. When talking about the A-10, it is also necessary to mention the position of the engines. The fact that the engines are at the tail section of the aircraft and on top of the fuselage is not an aesthetic choice. This design has two critical purposes. First, to protect the engines from bullets and shrapnel coming from the ground. Second, to hide the aircraft's heat signature, meaning its thermal radiation, upwards through the fuselage and wings. This makes it difficult for heat-seeking missiles fired from the ground to lock onto the aircraft. Although many people think this makes the aircraft look ugly, there is a genius engineering behind this ugliness. This positioning is of vital importance, even to prevent foreign objects from being sucked into the engine from the ground while the aircraft is taking off from the runway. The A-10 is designed to be able to take off even from the worst and most poorly maintained runways. The lifespan of an aircraft is usually projected as 20 or 30 years. The A-10, on the other hand, has been in the sky for almost 50 years. People think the aircraft has never changed and that it flies in the same state it was in the 70s. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. Modern A-10C models have advanced helmet-mounted sighting systems, state-of-the-art targeting pods, and digital cockpit screens. So while it may still look like that old and clunky aircraft from the outside, the brain of a modern fighter jet lies inside. Thanks to these updates, the margin of error for the aircraft has been reduced, and its effectiveness has been increased. Pilots can now see their targets with high precision, even in the dark of night or in foggy weather. So, does this aircraft not have a weak point? Of course it does. The greatest enemy of the A-10 is neither tanks nor missiles. Its greatest enemy is technological progress. In an age where stealth technology has become standard, the chance of an aircraft that gives a massive signal on radar and flies quite slowly surviving in a modern airspace is very low. This is the reason why A-10s were not immediately deployed to the field in Ukraine or similar modern conflict zones. Advanced radar networks and long-range anti-aircraft systems can detect and destroy this aircraft within seconds. However, this fact does not diminish the value of the aircraft. It only determines which wars it is suitable for. Another factor that feeds the A-10 legend is the fact that the aircraft is incredibly easy to repair. Many of its parts are identical for the right and left sides. When a piece of the right wing is torn off, if you don't have a spare, you can modify and install the left wing piece from another aircraft. Engines, landing gear struts, and tail fins are interchangeable. This logistical ease allows the aircraft to operate even in primitive bases close to the front line. While other modern jets require sterile hangars and hundreds of technicians, the A-10 can return to the war with a handful of technicians and a few wrenches. This field-friendly structure has made it the most practical combat vehicle of the American military.